You're standing in a room you've been in 1,000 times. Your kitchen, your desk, the hallway outside your apartment. And the colors are gone. Not literally, the walls are still white, the coffee is still dark, but something behind your eyes has dimmed. You move through the morning like a ghost haunting your own life. And the worst part isn't the sadness. It's that you can't even name what's missing. But here's what no one told you. That fog you're feeling, it's not just in your head. It's your head. The part of your brain that builds your sense of self. The network you use to reflect, to dream, to plan who you're becoming. It's glitching. And until you understand why, no amount of motivational posters or promotion letters will clear the haze. But to understand how to get out, we need to go back to what went wrong in the first place. Deep inside your skull, there's a web of brain regions that lights up when you're not doing anything in particular. When you daydream, when you wonder who you really are, when you lie awake imagining a different life, this network hums quietly in the background, stitching together your past, your present, and some rough sketch of your future. It's the engine of self-reflection, and when it works well, the world feels vivid. Choices feel possible. You feel like you. Now picture that network flickering, losing signal, like a radio drifting between stations. Researchers found that people who feel stuck and aimless show a big drop in how well this network holds together. That's not a subtle dip. That's a system struggling to keep the lights on. And when that self-reflection engine stutters, the part of your brain that processes fear and threat, your alarm center, starts running hot. Anxiety climbs. Focus scatters. The world doesn't just feel gray. It feels hostile. And here's what makes it worse. When you're trapped in that fog, the culture around you hands you a very specific escape plan. Chase something shiny. Get the promotion. Win the award. Post the achievement. And it works for about 2 days. Then the fog rolls back in, thicker than before. You've probably seen this happen to someone you know. Maybe you've lived it yourself. You hit a goal you'd been working toward for months, maybe years. The moment arrives. There's a rush of pride, a flash of warmth. People congratulate you. You smile. And then, 3 days later, you're lying in bed at 2 in the morning asking yourself, "Reese, is that it?" Most people, when asked what gives them purpose, point to trophies, awards, grades, external proof that they matter. But the data on what happens after they reach those goals tells a darker story. People who chase titles as their main source of meaning burn out faster. Not slightly, twice as fast in some studies. The trophy gives you a spike, but spikes come down. So if trophies don't work, what does? This is where things get strange. Because the answer sounds almost too simple to be true. Imagine a compass, not in your pocket, in your chest. A needle that doesn't point north. It points toward whatever is most true about who you are. Not who your parents wanted you to be. Not who your LinkedIn profile says you are. Who you actually are, underneath the resume and the social mask. When that needle is active, when you can feel it pulling, decisions get easier. Not easy, but easier. You stop asking first döder, how ti, tursens, what should I do? And start asking fee, fader fee, and tees, what fits? Here's he. Researchers who studied the difference between these two paths, the trophy path and the compass path, find a gap that's hard to ignore. People driven by internal values, by identity, by what genuinely matters to them. They don't just feel better in the moment. They sustain that feeling. Their well-being holds steady over time, like a river fed by deep springs. People driven by external rewards ride waves, high after a win, low after the glow fades. It's one of the more solid findings in the science of human drive. But knowing you need a compass doesn't mean you know how to read one. And this is where most people get stuck. They hear and follow your values, and they nod because it sounds right. But then someone asks them, what are your values? And the room goes quiet. Here's why. Your values aren't a wish list. They're not things you admire from a distance. They're shaped like puzzle pieces, specific, oddly cut, and they only fit in specific places. Saying I value kindness is a start. But which kind of kindness? The kind that volunteers at shelters? The kind that tells hard truths to people you love? The kind that quietly holds space without offering advice? These are different shapes. They fit different lives. People who go through structured exercises, sorting value cards, writing in guided journals, talking it out in small groups, report a dramatic shift, not in what they believe, in how clearly they can see it, not in what they believe, in how clearly they can see it. Workshops, in particular, seem to matter more than solo reflection. Something about naming your values out loud in the presence of others locks them into place, like pressing a key into soft wax and watching the impression hold. And once those values take root, something strange becomes possible. You can rewrite the story you've been telling yourself your whole life. You carry a story about yourself. You've been building it since childhood, whether you realize it or not. Every failure, every triumph, every humiliation, every quiet moment of pride, they're all threaded together into a narrative. And that narrative shapes everything. How you see your past, what you believe you're capable of, whether you think the next chapter of your life will be worth reading. But here's the thing about stories. The events don't change. What changes is how you frame them. A job you lost at 25 can be the chapter where your life fell apart. Or it can be the chapter where something cracked open and let the light in. Same event, completely different story. And the story you choose changes your brain. Literally, people who went through a structured process of rewriting their life story, not making things up, but reframing real events as chapters of growth, showed stronger connections in the part of the brain that builds meaning from experience. After just 6 weeks, their brain scans looked different. And they didn't just feel different. They acted different. They started finishing what they started, something most of them hadn't done in years. The story they told themselves about who they were became a kind of engine. And the engine ran on truth, just reframed truth. You might be thinking, that's a nice idea, but I don't have control over my life. And that objection deserves honest air, because in many cases it's partly true. There's a real argument that all this talk about inner compasses and values and rewriting your story is a luxury, that it assumes freedom, that for people boxed in by poverty, by discrimination, by caregiving burdens that leave no room for self-reflection, telling them to find their purpose from within, borders on cruel. And that argument has weight. The walls built by the system around them are real. A single mother working multiple jobs doesn't lack values. She lacks time. She lacks support. She lacks the conditions that make reflection possible. This matters. And any honest conversation about purpose has to hold that tension. Inner alignment is powerful, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists inside systems, economic, social, cultural, that either support it or suffocate it. Still, even within tight constraints, one thing consistently moves the needle: agency. The sense that at least some of your choices are your own. You don't need total freedom. You need pockets of it. Small moments where you choose, where you decide, where you act, even in a small way, based on what matters to you. When people are given even modest support for making their own decisions, a coach who asks questions instead of giving orders, a manager who offers options instead of mandates, something shifts. Their sense of self-direction climbs, not because their circumstances changed, but because their relationship to those circumstances changed. They stopped being passengers. They became, even in small ways, navigators. And once you start navigating, you notice something you might not expect. You can't do it alone. Not really. There's a myth that purpose is a solo quest. The lone hero climbing the mountain, the solitary genius in the attic, and it makes for a good story. But the research says something different. Purpose doesn't just survive in community. It grows there. A web of genuine connections acts like a scaffold. People who see you, who challenge you, who remind you who you are when you forget. It holds the structure up while you're still building it. Groups that met weekly to talk about purpose saw real gains. Not from being told what their purpose should be, from hearing each other's stories, from watching someone else struggle with the same fog and find a way through. Social support doesn't just make you feel good. It buffers the stress that wears purpose down in the first place. It's like wind protection for a young tree. The tree still has to grow on its own, but without the shelter, the wind snaps it before it gets the chance. And this brings us back to where we started. That gray morning, that room you've stood in 1,000 times. The colors drained out. What if the colors didn't leave? What if they were always there, but the part of you that sees them went offline? What if the path back to vivid, full-spectrum life doesn't start with achieving more, but with listening more closely to the compass you forgot you carried? This isn't about 5 easy steps. It's not about a vision board or a bucket list. It's about the slow, patient work of asking yourself hard questions. What do I actually value? Not what I was told to value. What's the real story of my life? Not the highlight reel, but the honest version with the cracks left in. Where can I choose, even in small ways, to act from that center? And who will walk beside me while I figure it out? None of this is fast. None of it is flashy. And that's exactly why it works. Because the things that last are never built in a day. If this story pulled something loose in you, if you felt even a flicker of recognition, then the next story is waiting. Subscribe, because what comes next goes even deeper. And somewhere inside you, a needle is turning. It's been turning for a long time. You just stopped listening to it. Maybe tonight, in the quiet, you'll let it speak.